Spread the word, it's time for the Dr. Robert Show. Join him today with his guests as they explore current hot topics about healthy living as food for thought. And what do the stars say? A look at how you in today's events are influenced by the cosmos. I Want to Believe, with thought-provoking prophecies about UFOs, star visitors, disclosure, and the 2012 awakening. Each week, new topics on relationships, conscious business, science, and technology all bring better understanding to our daily pursuits. Education will determine how our kids think in the future, and we will examine provocative new ideas in art, music, and dance as well. And now, it's time for Dr. Robert.
Hey, welcome to the show. I'm always glad to be here. Glad to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us this week on the Dr. Robert Show. Of course, we have a great lineup as usual. We have Bobby Marqueso, our ufologist, Renee Baribeau, our practical shaman chef, Joseph Anthony, always taking a look at what's going on in the stars. Our new grief specialist will be joining us, Barbara St. John, and my special guest today, Sebastian Dudley. You're going to love what this man has to say. So without further ado, let's get this show started. And once again, joining me on this segment of the show is my good friend Bobby Marqueso. You can find out more about Bobby at www.bobbymarqueso.com. Welcome back, Bobby. How are you doing today?
Thank you, sir. I'm doing wonderfully well. How about you?
I'm doing really, really great. I know that you're, always a busy man, always got one foot on this side and one foot on the other. So when are they going to beam you up?
I don't know. I would like to, because apparently you can get more done, right? There's this little time shift. So you go, I'm away for like months, but when I come back, we're only 2 minutes older, right? Or something like that. Is that how that works? Wouldn't that be?
Yeah, I know. I mean, what does it mean? It means that we're getting older a lot faster on the other side. But we've aged for years. We come back here, it's been 2 minutes. No wonder we like being on this side.
No wonder, huh? Either that or it's the other way around completely. So I'm not sure. I'll let you know though as soon as I leave and get beamed up. Then I'll.
Okay, good.
You have an exclusive.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? Every time somebody says that, they get beamed up. They either come back and say, I can't talk about it, like the President of the United States, or,
Right.
It can't be a disclosure because they know something they're not supposed to share. Or
Right.
There's always these excuses.
That's so funny. But I promise you, my friend, bullet to the head or not, I will have an exclusive for your show the minute I get back.
All right, great. Thanks a lot, Bobby. What's new in the news this week?
Well, we've been talking about Dr. Stephen Greer quite a bit. Hopefully his name is becoming familiar to everyone when we do talk about him and UFOs and what's called the Disclosure Project. Of course, that is top-ranking officials, videos, pictures that have never been before seen that have been released to the public or have been made to be released. In other words, there's so many hoops that people have to go through in order to see something that's been classified or to get a document declassified. Dr. Stephen Greer has put in so much work and so much time in doing all of this, years from what he says. His website is the disclosureproject.org, and you can find out more about him. The documentary that's been in the making for this entire time is called Sirius the Movie. Now, Sirius is spelled S-I-R-I-U-S. And again, Dr. Stephen Greer has made his way through many UFO lectures. He takes groups out on actual ET hunting, if you will. He has, I don't know if it's like a campground or where they set up, but he has tools and methods and techniques that he has developed in order to call ET down. And apparently these groups have experienced some amazing things when they're together, lights in the sky, not just seeing them, but actually answering back. In other words, when they send out a message, they'll blink twice and the UFOs blink twice. They'll ask a question or ask them to do something mentally, and the spacecraft, for lack of a better term, does that. So if you're interested in finding out more about Dr. Stephen Greer, he does this all over the world. They have another expedition taking place in the UK, but I've seen them take place here in Los Angeles and also farther up north towards the northern California end. Anyway, I forgot to mention, if you're an iPhone app type of person or Android app, he has an app for that. It will have tools on it that will explain to you what's necessary in order for you to contact ET. They've got sound files. They have all kinds of different techniques to use on this app that will help you get ET. It emits. These are some tones that have been emitted from crop circles and other sounds that he's stored into the app itself. And when you play this, apparently, it calls them down. And there's some other pretty cool methods that we don't necessarily have time to go into on this show, but we can in the future. But great methods for calling ET down and making contact. So looking forward to that. But my main point is, Sirius the movie finally coming out and will be released coming up on what they call Earth Day, April 22nd, for those of you who are Earth people. This year, but it's going to take place in Los Angeles, right here at the Stapleton Center. I've not the Regal Theater. I think it's the Staples Center. Somebody might have misput that. I've not heard of the Stapleton Center, but I've heard of obviously the Staples Center and the Regal Theater. So I'm sorry if I'm wrong about that, but you can find it on his website. But it will be in Los Angeles, April 22nd. If you want to go, I think it would be a hoot. I think we should gather 5 of our closest friends and go watch this movie together, maybe even doing a report live on the air to talk about it and talk about Dr. Stephen Greer and the movie itself and what a unique movie it is. But it's supposed to be amazing because, again, he's gathered all these top officials that are coming forward, some for the very first time, and disclosing what it is they know and what they've come to believe about life elsewhere. I can't wait to see it. I love these types of programs that come out, these documentaries. You can find many of them on YouTube. Sirius won't be available on YouTube or the internet, I'm thinking, for quite a while. So there's Dr. Stephen Greer elsewhere. So can you imagine you're sitting around the fireplace, you're out in the woods, your family, everybody's telling ghost stories. And while everyone is just kind of calm and sitting around, there's a young boy about 7 years old that's with you. And all of a sudden, he wants to announce that he's from Mars, and he would like to tell you all about it. Well, that's actually the truth. There is a boy named Boriska from Russia. In fact, he's known as the Russian boy from Mars. And apparently, he dropped this huge, not literally, bomb on everyone and started talking about life with Mars and how they've been here for thousands of years. I'm talking more than that, 50,000 so years ago, of them coming down here and being a part of the Earth and difficult to breathe oxygen. So they have to, their bodies have to acclimate. He's talking about the entire history of Lemuria, the Lemurians, its inhabitants, the details. What's interesting is the fact of how much knowledge this young boy knows. He stunned everyone, not only with this announcement, but all of these announcements, not only with this announcement, but all of his knowledge on this history of Mars. The conversation took place because overall, he said he was just very touched by the overall atmosphere of the camp, and he just started talking. So, I don't know. One of the questions they ask, of course, you know, you're going to ask a lot of questions. And they were asking him what his main purpose for coming forward now was, and apparently wanted to enlighten everyone, wake everybody up, also to let us know that there is a major catastrophe that has taken place in the past few years, which that happens. So I don't know that's necessarily proof, but he does say that there is another one set to happen this year, 2013. Didn't give a month. So it must be going to be something pretty major, because there's catastrophes all the time, right? When we have our tropical storms, or when we're having tornadoes, or you know, God forbid, an earthquake here in California. So I would have to think this would be major significance in order for him just to say this year. But and I'm sorry, did I say 50,000 years? Yeah, I meant 800,000 years ago that he says that they have been here on this planet. He says that the reason we can't get probes close to Mars is because there's an atmosphere of protection around Mars, and it short circuits everything before it gets to it. So we're not able to get as close as we would like. I know we have a rover on Mars. What I'm talking about is they have sent sensors, and they have sent other probes to find out more about Mars, and they haven't been able to get through because Mars has that protective shield of somewhat. You're going to have to make up your own mind. Go to Google, type in Boriska, Boriska. Read the entire article. I'm just highlighting only a couple of paragraphs of this whole thing. Find out for yourself if you believe this boy. I'm torn. I think there are a lot of gifted children, but some of the information, I don't feel as though he was just making it up using his imagination. There's other segments, however, that I'm like, well, come on. Anybody can say that. Any boy with a good imagination could say something like this. You're really going to have to make up your own mind. Boriska. That's a very cool name either way, Robert. Robert Boriska.
Yeah.
That's kind of...
Yeah, I'm going to check him out. I'm going to definitely check him out. I'm very fascinated by what he has to say. I'm going to resonate to the vibe of this guy and see what's going on for myself.
See what up, because I think some of the information he has is fantastic and of course type of feeling, but there's other vibrations with it. You're right. That is like, oh, come on.
Come on. Right. Well, we'll see. There's a lot of information out there, and a lot of people just say they're channeling it, and we kind of go along with that. So now he's actually saying, I ain't channeling it. I'm from there. Here's the data. So he's got to hold that space now for quite a while he's here, unless he just suddenly disappears.
Right. Goodness.
I also want to let you know that this world premiere of the film Sirius that you're speaking of will be, you're right, April 22nd on Earth Day. It's at 7:30 p.m. at the Regal Cinemas, LA, Live Stadium 14 in the Premier House Theater at 1000 West Olympic Boulevard, Los Angeles, California.
Hoorah.
So we got that. So thank you so much, Bobby, for joining us again, as always, with fascinating information. Stephen Greer's stuff is great. The whole disclosure information he comes forward with is fascinating. You're right. The website is amazing. I try to tap into it as much as I can. And Boriska will check out, and I would love to join you on Earth Day. You and I will talk about that and get back to everybody here on the show.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us again. You can learn once again about Bobby Marcheso at bobbymarcheso.com. Have a great week, Bobby.
You too, man.
And once again on this segment of the show is our practical shaman chef, Renee Baribeau. You can learn more about Renee at www.practicalshaman.com. And hello, Renee. How you doing today?
Good. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I know we're going to have a little conversation about consumerism. Is that true?
It is, but I first want to say happy birthday yesterday, Robert. I hope you had an amazing day with yourself and treated yourself to some really good, and sugar-free cake?
Sugar-free cake, and it was actually quite tasty. Believe it or not, there's all these recipes out there. Actually, a friend of mine just sent me a recipe today to look at, post-birthday, a vegan recipe with it as a completely sugar-free cake and flour-free. So I said, okay, maybe I'll try to make that week. But thank you very much. I had a great birthday yesterday. Here we are. Pisces, Mercury's almost direct on the 17th. I'm excited about that. Yay.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness. This was a hard Mercury. I don't know about for the rest of you. Hey, we're going to be talking for the next couple of weeks about consumerism, but, speaking of sugar, what did you think yesterday about that the New York City manager's ban on large sugary and soda drinks got shot down by the Supreme Court?
You know what? I kind of already felt that was going to happen. I know Bloomberg was really behind it, and I was in New York, for Fashion Week here in February this year. And, that was a big topic, the whole idea of, the big and thirsty drinks and all the sugar being such a negative thing. I think they've gone about it the wrong way. Of course, it gets into constitutional rights. This is, once again, should be studied from a point of education and funding towards education to teaching people, kids in schools, and their parents on the value of eating healthy. So again, we're not going to we're not going to create anything that's going to really support and help the community unless we do it through education.
Well, the truth is that let's talk a little bit about education today. I think that that's a great intro into the consumerism topics we're going to be covering in this month. But, it's like the gun law, that we're going to cut down on criminals by taking away our right to bear arms. I mean, I just really find when we get to these places that we're really pushing the limits of our freedoms here and whether or not we're really free. But I so agree with you about education. Last weekend when I was working in LA, one of my clients came to see me, and it was her daughter's very first birthday. Not only hadn't she really ever seen sugary products other than, which is in the natural order of things, she had never seen gluten products. And I'm just kind of wondering, because when he told me that the kid actually destroyed this cupcake, I'm thinking like, well, is it innate? Is it, is it in our gene makeup? Or what is it about that gluten and that consistency of these products that are so attractive to us as human beings that a 1-year-old who never had an option to have that before fell in love immediately?
I think it is definitely all about flavor and taste. Again, that's why we love flour, butter, or fat, and sugar. I lived in Japan for many, many years and studied Japanese history. One of the interesting things about a day of reckoning with disease in Japan, when the foreigner first came into their country, which is the size of California, they had never seen any sort of outside products, especially one of them being chocolate. And the Dutch brought chocolate to Japan. It proceeded to rot the teeth of the Japanese people because they had never known tooth decay in their culture. So I think, it just goes to show you, they got the chocolate and they couldn't get enough of it. There is just something innately connected to the flavor and the taste of this product.
Well, so then, how do you really keep your children from having these experiences? It just starts at such a young age. And do you think then really they develop a taste for that? One of my other friends or clients in Park City, her son, he sneaks the bottle of maple syrup. So whereas she doesn't have, so she doesn't really have a sugar candy in the house, he's got such a thing that he mainlines the maple syrup.
Mainlines. And if she got rid of the maple syrup with agave nectar, he'd be mainlining that too, I'm sure.
I know. Well, and know how we found it is she was giving us a tour of her new house, and we go downstairs to the the Rector sets, and there is the bottle of maple syrup sitting next to his work table.
Oh Lord, no, but it's really a scary thing in the sense that we can, just like sustainable energy, Renee, it's just a matter of time before we come up with new products that will be more sustainable, more healthy. We're doing it all the time. And I think, like stevia, which is what I use in my product that comes from a leaf, that is not sugar at all, is a natural flavor that gives you the sweetness without any of the, the side effects of, knocking down, pharmacology, pharmaceuticals, reduce synthetic things out of dairy products, or white or brown molasses sugar, or maple syrup, or agave, which again are all about what they do to spike and elevate your insulin level in your body. So this is where the damage, of course, the rotted teeth is a major problem, hardening of the arteries, all these side effects that you get from especially white sugar. However, the problem is that we are still manufacturing from corn syrup, a Monsanto a product that is being, farmed out throughout the country now. I mean, everything is around corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, or just corn syrup. It is the product that is in everything. And this is a product that spikes the insulin, which causes the type 2 diabetes and a lot of the other issues that are going on, especially now because there's so much of it around. So the education will change that. People will become more aware, and they'll want to see new product lines that will actually support life.
I don't know. I'm not quite convinced that we're not a bunch of lip service. I mean, think about it, what we've done in California now, where we have everything has its calorie count on the menu. Now, I don't know, I know you've been on this really special diet, but I still see people in line looking. The one that's coming to me right now is over at the, whatever, one of the ones with the healthier Mexican place there, which has all of its calorie counts there, and yet I don't see people ordering differently.
Well, we obviously have an obesity problem in the United States. Hello, they're obviously ordering worse than they've ever done before. But what I'm suggesting is that yes, that's what they're being served, because that's what is the cheapest thing to process and manufacture and put out on the market to make the most profits. Remember, we're a capitalist country, we're profit driven. So what happens when we can have products that then become more economical, that can match that, to allow us to be able to eat better, serve better food at a price that's, the same as all the fast food people? We don't have that yet. Look at organic. It's still expensive in most retail stores.
And, I'm getting ready for some of the topics this month. I've been doing a lot of research on the organics and some of the issues the organic farmers are having, especially in the industries of like cotton, where they just cannot compete with cotton coming in from other countries, and it's so they're going back to some of what the article was talking about, was that some of the organic farmers are now looking at some of the genetically modified seeds in order to be more health conscious in their farming practices. Kind of a little tricky ground there. I think it's tricky. We're gonna have a conversation about that coming up real soon. So, but I don't know if we really fully understand the impact of, even when we see numbers next to our products on the signage of what we're ordering, if that's stopping us. I mean, I certainly know it's stopping me when I go to a restaurant and I see something that has 1,000 calories versus something that has 200. But I don't even know if people really understand at this point what their calorie count should be in a given day. Really, I think we have to put health and education as one of the basics of our school system. Just like you learn math and English, you learn about food.
Well, we did when I was growing up. I'm 61 yesterday, and we did learn about that. We had a physical fitness program, we had an arts program, we had a music program, and we had a health program where we actually took an hour a day of health class.
Really?
That was above and beyond physical education. In fact, when I was in elementary school, we also took a second language, was required in elementary school. So it was a different time and place. Education today is not education. It's about task tests. It's about passing these exams to get kids out of the school systems into whatever their career is. It's changed, and education, like I said, I don't believe is education anymore. So that's why we're seeing the kind of what you're suggesting. People do not understand or comprehend what caloric intake means, and like you and I talked, and I know we're running out of time here, but until I really took a real specific look at sugar, I was one of those people. I was sort of ignorant to it all. I had no idea the amount of sugar that is in food until I actually focused in it. So that's why we have you here, Renee, to help us focus in on this and to share your thoughts every week with us.
And I would love for people to come over to the Shaman Chef over on Facebook and leave me your thoughts and topics as well.
Well, thank you so much, Renee Baribeau, for joining us once again on the show. I love having you here. It's always exciting. Until the next time, have a great week.
All right, thanks.
And joining us on a new segment of the Dr. Robert Show is Barbara St. John. We had Barbara on last week for an 20-minute introduction so you could learn more about her and her work as a grief specialist and everything else she does. And we're really glad to start the segment this week. And thank you so much for joining us today. Barbara, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Robert.
So I guess the topics we're going to start with, I think you brought up you would like to start talking a little bit about grief and, some of the aspects of grief that people need to know about. So what's up? What do we need to know?
Well, I've been doing grieving work for about 35 years. And as I said last week, I learned, that we are a country of grievers. And there are like 13 million grievers due to death in the United States. And 2.6 million deaths per year in the United States. So for every one of those deaths, Robert, there's 5 grievers per death that are seriously affected. And, all that we have been taught about and prepared to deal with, we haven't been prepared to absolutely deal with life's absolute most predictable experience, which is loss. And grief is individual, and it's very unique to each person. Each person will grieve differently and go through the process differently. Many people ask me how I got started, and I often say, well, I was a griever myself. The loss of many of family members and so forth. I had to learn to kind of muster it up. And I went on a search to discover certain things about grief and how to assist my family and my friends in moving through their grief, and ended up doing it in my practice, and I loved it. And I love to see how people recover. And oftentimes when someone passes away, there are about, like I mentioned, about 141 comments given when someone dies. And like I said last week, only 122 of them really work. And so the other ones are really not working for us. So we have to learn how to talk to a griever, which is extremely important, which means that we have to allow that griever the opportunity to have that grief and not talk them out of it or shut them down or negate them for having the experience that they are having at the moment. When I go to a funeral, and I often say maybe to a brother, I'm sorry that your brother died. And everyone in the room goes, oh my God, died. Because we're used to saying passed away, made a transition, went to another place, went to a better place, went to God. No, they died. And so realizing that, allowing that to resonate within us, and what does that feel like? And giving, again, the individual permission to deal with that. And there's one thing that I learned, and that, that is that, we talk about death. We watch it on TV. It's on the internet. It's all over the newspapers. It's all over Facebook. It's everywhere. So it is one of the topics that's discussed. But one of the topics that's not discussed and seems to be off limits is grief. So, and that's people's reaction to loss. And how many, many people have experienced the death of a loved one from years ago. But you know what? It's still, that pain is still there, that every time that thought comes in, they still are experiencing that loss. So I prepare people to be able to have those memories and to be able to not have that pain surface right after the memory. And oftentimes, when someone passes away and you get the news, you realize that, whoa, I'm not prepared. In about 12 seconds, 10 seconds, oh my God, what do I do? And you look for family, you reach to friends, you turn and ask for emotional support, but nobody knows what to do for you. So about 15 seconds later, you're like, oh my God, nobody knows how to help me with all these conflicting emotions that are rushing through my body and what I am experiencing. And then, like I said, 3 days later, on last week's show, 3 days later, you're supposed to be getting better, should be starting life over, should be starting to get out more, so forth, and we're supposed to act normal. Well, that's not acting normal. The normal and natural way to handle grief is to experience it. And there's number of losses. There's about 42 potential losses, Robert, in someone's lifetime. And, how do people handle those? Because, you know what? They're not prepared. They're seriously not prepared to handle them. And, again, grief is accumulative. It builds over time because, we lose one relative, we lose another one. But not only that, during the times of these deaths, there's also losses. There might be divorce. There might be relationship losses. There may be, loss of children, loss of pets, loss of business. And it goes on and on and on. And people don't realize that these accumulation of losses are creating so much pain in their lives. And so, learning to go in and kind of get in touch with and understand those griefs and to understand how you process them at the time and to reevaluate them now and walk through them. And so that's what I do on a daily basis with my clients, allowing them to get in touch with those feelings that they have negated maybe for 10, 20, 30 years. And it's never too soon to start getting help for your grief. Soon after someone dies, people will say, well, maybe I'll wait a while. No, I encourage them to start right away while that pain is there and bring it up and nurture and take care of themselves. So those are just some of the thoughts I have about grief and how I help the individuals to go deep inside. And it's not a painful process. It's a process of eliminating the pain. And it's also a process of purging the pain that is limiting you. So this is a quick process. It doesn't have to take years and years and years or weeks and weeks and weeks to walk through this. And as I said, bringing people to zero so they can get back into being optimistic about their life.
Wow. It's just such a huge category to talk about. I really appreciate some of the information today, and it just sparked all sorts of stuff in the future that we could bring up. It's the whole idea of what about the mystical experience that people have while they're going through the grief from the transitional period, of what may have happened to them or their loved one, what they, actually experienced. If they had the opportunity to be with that person when they passed versus like sudden death or catastrophic event there where we're able to really connect with the person before we die, which I believe the trauma is even worse. It certainly was for me. So it's going to be some interesting things to be able to approach in the coming weeks.
Absolutely, Robert, because that incomplete communication is where most of the pain lies. It's what I didn't say, what I wanted to say. I wanted it to be more. I wanted it to be better. And so, and guilt is huge. We talked a little bit about that last week. It's sort of that guilt. Helping people to dissolve the guilt is a big one for me, Robert.
Well, thank you. And next week, maybe that would be a great topic for next week, is to talk about guilt and remorse, guilters, remorse, and all that process that happens with grief. If not, it certainly is a topic to talk about in the future. I want to thank you, Barbara, for being a part of our show again today. How can people connect with you?
They can reach me at BarbaraSt.John.com, and it's Barbara, and it's spelled out, SAINTJOHN.com. And as I'm offering the CD, which is just a harmonic CD, it's a relaxation CD, to anyone who would like to contact me, and I will get that sent out to them.
And then tapping into being able to do consultations with you, they just go to your website. Does it list the types of consultations and the work you do?
Yes. I do phone consultations as well as office visits, and I am in Scottsdale, Arizona, and right in the heart of Scottsdale. And absolutely give me a call, and I'd love to set something up. Mm-hmm.
I think it'd be great. I think this is a really great topic to talk about. We're in the baby boomer generation. There was 40 million of us born in from the 40s through the 70s. And of course, we're all getting older. And although we've dealt with a lot of transition in our lives through, lots of wars, Vietnam War, all the way to the present wars we're going through, 9/11, and, whatever, the AIDS epidemic, of course, all the stuff that's going on within our culture. I would like at one point in the future for you to talk about grief in terms of, the global way that we look at it. I'm sure it's different in other countries, isn't it?
Absolutely. It is different in other countries. And other countries do not, we're one of the countries that don't really talk about this subject, as I said, the subject of grief. Other countries have certain ways that they walk through their grief. I even hear in the United States, the American Indian, they will take several days before they go back to work or start their normal life again. And they throw things, they cry, they actually have a mourning period, which is something that we really don't have here in the United States.
Interesting. All right. Well, thank you so much, Barbara. We look forward to further reports in the future. You have a nice week, okay?
Oh, you too, Robert. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Joining me on this segment of the show is my special guest today, Sebastian Dudley. You can learn more about Sebastian at www.sebastiandudley.com. This is a remarkable, energetic field today for me. I'm very excited to have Sebastian here today. I met this beautiful, bright young man at a conference I was attending and lecturing at a week or so ago in Scottsdale, Arizona, and he is a mutual friend of a friend of ours, and we were introduced. It seemed at the moment it was just absolutely as if we'd always known each other, we'd always will know each other. It was really, really perfectly divine, and we embraced, and it was a beautiful, energetic field of love. And I spoke to him and said, would you like to be on my show so that we could share your self with the audience? I really want to bring in an allowance today of the energetic field here we are, we're going to participate in this very brief 20-minute conversation today. I went to his website and he wrote something that I really loved. He said, when you turn your attention inward and accept and love yourself completely, you will find that which you seek. You will find the divine. And further down, Sebastian has written that he holds the space of divine love for people all over the world. He serves as a vibrational reminder of their greatest potential, returning them back to a state of harmony with themselves and all that is. So in this moment, I'd like to introduce Sebastian. Hello, friend. How are you doing today?
Hello, Robert. I'm doing very, very well. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. I'm so excited to actually be here with you today.
Well, thank you. Well, if you're excited, I'm excited. We've been talking before and after this conversation, as always, and there's always that the sweetness that reminds me, why I'm here. It's always that sense of why I'm here sort of goes away, and I just am here, and I love that presence. So thank you for sharing that space with me today. Sebastian, I want to give the audience a little bit of background about you just for a moment, moving into this space. Could you share with us your journey in the last, couple of years that has brought about the work that you are, or the work that you're sharing with us right now, or the energetic field that you're sharing with us through your sessions and your space? Would you mind doing that for us, please?
Absolutely. I'm honored to. So a few years ago, I was running a company, and I was just really living my life like every ordinary person out there. There was no real searching and seeking going on within me. I was just merely living my life. And in 2010, I had what many refer to as a great awakening. And I essentially accessed the deepest part of my being and fell into the divine within myself. And in that very moment, I had realized that not only was that my birthright, but I could see that potential in every single human being, that inside us all is this greater potential. And while in that place, while in that space, I knew that this was the very reason why I was born, and that everything leading up until that moment in my life was all required and necessary and part of my own evolution, if you will, of returning back to self. And I had fallen back into myself at the exact moment in time in which I set it up with myself. So in essence, in December of 2010, I met my own divine appointment. And it was in that space that I realized that it is now within my time of when it was planned that I shared that I'd come at a particular point in time and be that greater reminder for so many right now at this time.
The great reminder, falling into oneself, returning to love. You know, the moment that I guess most of the world looks at from the place energetically of the question. And when one falls into oneself, there's no longer the question.
That's right. That's right. That's right. In fact, all of the searching and seeking and questioning is almost a distractor, keeping us from the beingness that we're being called into, moving into being.
Well, it's sort of a conundrum at times, and my thinking about this is that we're here, we're in this sort of presence as children or babies. We have this just sort of open expression of everything. There's no sense of judgment. There's this loving embrace. All is new. All is just sort of the experience of living. And then, of course, it becomes the restrictions and the laws and the shame and the guilt and the blame and whatever that leads through this experience that we go through. And the more that those challenges seem to appear that deconstruct us into our thought process, we become more and more doubtful of who we are, and we have the great question of why am I here and what am I doing, and why aren't I achieving what it is that I want? We become the great doers and the great problem solvers and the great thinkers. And what you're suggesting is that it's not that at all.
That's right. That's right. And let me even give you part of this, because you tapped into around our childhood, and this is so crucial to see what has been going on within oneself, is that most of us have invalidated ourselves since birth. And as children, we felt misplaced, unloved, unseen, unappreciated by the adults around us. And we found ourselves in a reality that wasn't capable of acknowledging the gift and the blessing that we are. And so as a result, many of us struggle to love and accept ourselves fully.
And it seems unnatural to not love oneself fully. I just know within myself that the entire rational mind and thinking that I spent so much time in, when I look back at it now or reflect on those experiences, of course, there is no longer any judgment. It just simply was the experiences that were leading up to my divine appointment, and that allowed me to have this greater sense of who I am within myself that said, okay, so this is the moment, this is the arrival point. But for me, it was through a series of catastrophic events and near-death experiences. I know that that's not necessarily how most people are choosing their divine appointment. Was it yours?
Again, the critical point where you recognize that the key here is no judgment. And even in judgment of our own divine appointment, of what brought us to that moment of awakening, that in fact all of it is a blessing, that all of it is truly seen from the eyes of consciousness. There is no problem. That which brought you back home to yourself was the gift. So there's no judgment any longer on what it took or what was the as a result of what brought us home. At that moment in time, it's almost like, well, who cares what caused you to fall back into self? Now, when I say that, I don't mean to invalidate our childhoods, where many of us have had childhoods where we weren't not only seen and acknowledged, but there was an energetic boundary that was crossed where one may have been either abused or so, but yet you come to understand that everything is actually working for you, not to you. Even in the face of uncertainty, and in the face of such what would seem to be horrific circumstances and conditions.
It's all part of it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that it's not working against you, it's working for you. And in that present place of, this is the invitation. Hello. This is really the invitation to go beyond the idea that somehow the universe is an evil, dark, hard place to live in with lots of challenges and pain and agony and adversity, and somehow all those experiences are there to shut us down or prevent us in some way of not being able to be able to know that we're on this path of returning to who we are, returning home, going home. And I think that is an extraordinary part of the message.
Yeah, and even to expand upon that, in that invitation is where I was given this energetically with the divine was I found myself immersed in this place, in this space within myself for several hours where I was just, I guess you could use the word marinating. I was marinating in the divine of just this love and this presence just flooding my system and flowing through me. And I recognized at the end of that time that I spent in that space, I was having a conversation with the divine energetically, and it was downloading me with this information. And when I came out of that space in that session with myself, immediately what was given to me was that it's time for an invitation to a new conversation. Yet many have this perception that this invitation to this conversation is one where it'll be engaged on the cognitive level. But that's not actually what's happening. And what's actually occurring is that when we're awakening to that the divine has always been speaking to you. It has always been speaking to you. Yet you haven't been recognizing and aware of how that conversation has been taking place. But you're coming into this place now within yourself where you're about to see that the divine has been having a conversation with you on an energetical level. Because you yourself, as this divine embodiment, are a vibrational, energetic being. So it's on that level in which the divine has always been speaking to you. And it's that invitation to that conversation that I'm inviting people to. So we're actually engaging in a energetic dialogue that actually is occurring within one's heart on a vibrational level. Again, not on a cognitive one.
Yes, and the mind is a mess. It just thinks itself all the time about everything it can possibly think about, every construct that can be created. Every moment is filled with ideas that are bubbling up from this pool of energetic, whatever. And we are so caught up or in rapture with the thoughts and then judging what they are that we do not recognize the place where they're coming from.
That's right. That's right. And, we have been taught and trained in this reality to search for the answer or solution outside of ourselves. So we go about looking for ourselves in the same manner that we've been trained to approach life, where we go and we are engaged in having this conversation beyond a cognitive level where, for the most part, most of us have been looking to return back to that state of innocence within ourselves and fall back into ourselves through trying to reach it through the cognitive mind. We've been trying to understand consciousness. We have been trying to figure it out. But have we all come to recognize that as long as we have been functioning from that place, how has it really served us? How, when looking at one's life, have you actually gotten anywhere by figuring it out, by trying to understand consciousness? No. So what we discovered is that consciousness cannot be understood. It can only be directly experienced.
I often used to think that I would ask myself, where is my consciousness? And in the early days of teaching classes and doing workshops about whatever I was coming up with in service to, opening up whatever it is that I was thinking I needed, because it was always about the idea that there was something I must need, there's something I must require that I don't have, and if I can just find out what it is, then everything will be okay. And so the journey begins to look under every rock on the planet for that thing that is outside of myself. And one time I realized that when I was asking myself, when I was reflecting on who I am, I asked, where is my consciousness? Is it in my brain? Is it in my body? And I realized I couldn't place it. It was nowhere to be found, but it was everywhere at the same time. Nowhere to be found and everywhere at the same time. So then I began to have an inner knowing that said, there's nothing to be looking for.
That's right. That's right. That's right. In fact, everything you've been searching and seeking for your entire life has been right underneath your nose. It's been right in front of you the whole time, but we haven't been able to recognize it because of the way that this reality hasn't trained us. We have been going about searching and seeking for ourselves where we can't be found, which is outside. And it is time to come back home within one's heart, where the actual gift and blessing that you are awaits you. And that's really what this invitation to a new conversation is that as much as we have been engaged on the cognitive mind, and it served its purpose, we need to recognize that there has been no wrongness, no judgment to be placed on where up until this point we have been functioning from. So the conversations we have been having up until this point have served its purpose. It's brought us to where we are now. For me, this expression is coming in the form of that it's just time for a new conversation. And yet, what's interesting about that is it's really not a new conversation at all, because this is a conversation that the divine has been having with you all along. It's just time to sit in the space and in the presence and allow this greater love, light, and intelligence to flood your system and wash throughout your entire energetic system everywhere you've been making you out to be a problem ever since you arrived here. Because the reality is you are a gift of great magnitude to this world. From the very instant you were birthed into this world, you've been performing blessings and miracles all around you. And it's now time to just relinquish all of your thoughts of you being anything less.
My first conversation of having something, knowing there was a difference, as I began to look in the mirror and I began to recognize very, very slowly something inside of myself, I began to say out loud, I am my divine light within me. I am my divine light within me. And it was a different dialogue than I had had in my past, which is what was wrong with me and why aren't my eyes blue and how come I'm not thinner and, what's happened to all my hair and whatever that was shifted. And then as I began to walk by more and more mirrors, I began to see myself. I see you in there. And an explosion began to eventually happen within me. And it continues to be that way every day.
Beautiful.
Sebastian, our time has run out. Then this part of, having you on the show, 20 minutes is a very, very short period of time. I would love to invite you back.
I would love to come back.
And we can continue with all this wonder and beauty of living. Thank you so much for joining us today on my show. You can learn more about Sebastian at www.sebastiandudley.com. Any last thoughts or words for the audience?
Is that just know this, that everything up until this moment in your life is actually serving you. And I know for many of us in our lives, that's hard for us to see from where we see things. But you're being called to trust in this intelligence, in this love, in this light. And know that whatever you're being faced with at this time in your life, the more that you can take time out and just breathe and move into a place of silence within yourself and just trust this greater intelligence, more that you will come to know of the gift that it is here to give you and the blessing that it is.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Sebastian. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody, and once again, welcome to what is now the end of the show. I want to thank our guest today, but first of all, I'd like to put a shout out to Joseph Anthony. We had done a pre-record of his astrology today from www.planetswithin.com, and the recording did not come out right. It was something going on, maybe Mercury retrograde. We'll talk to him about it next week. But anyway, so we're not going to get to hear the report this week, but Joseph, of course, will be back next week to join us on that segment of the show. I want to thank Barbara St. John for joining us as a new special segment hostess, and having her here is wonderful to really share and reach out information that it can help many who are suffering from, loss and grief in their life and not really knowing how to move through it with a little bit more ease and grace. She's here to really help guide that mission, and we really thank you, Barbara. Of course, always Renee Baribeau. So much information. The whole segment this month is going to be on, the being a consumer and what the market is all about and the products we buy. Bobby Marquesa, who once again brings us a great report for us to take a look at in terms of what's going on with our star brothers and sisters. And so, and of course me, I'm here every week to help guide you and share some insights into what really is going on. I had a great birthday yesterday. It's been quite a revelation, and a year older. I can't believe how fast it keeps going. My mother always said as you got older, it goes faster. It's as if time collapses. Not really sure what that's all about, but I do want to remind everyone that it's a perfect year to tap into to a new understanding about who you are, to realize that we are listening and are part of the music of the spheres. Remember, you're not broken, and there's no accident that you're here. You're here because you choose to be, and you bring all the love with you that is your divine love. You are whole, perfect, and you are so totally complete, exactly the way you are. For more information about me and my work, you can go to www.robertpease.com. Please connect with me on Facebook and let me know, what ideas you have, what you're thinking about, and we would love to hear more of that from you. So until the next show, you have a really blessed week. Enjoy your life, breathe deeply, and enjoy the view. Namaste.